Right, okay, guys, more Star Wars news. Star Wars has lost 85% of its audience, and Lucasfilm's fix sounds worse. Couldn't have picked a better picture there because that's a good picture to describe this. Lucasfilm reportedly has a new fix for Star Wars, and somehow it sounds like more of the same problem. Chase younger viewers, aim for PG-13, build everything inside a top-down creative framework, use AI to help generate environments and visual effects. Make Star Wars feel special again. Well, if you want to make it feel special, maybe skip the AI, because I don't think that's a good idea, is it? But before Lucasfilm chases a new audience, it might want to deal with the one it already lost. Yeah, agreed. I'd be one of those. Here's the number that should keep someone at Lucasfilm up at night, 85%. That's roughly how much of its theatrical audience Star Wars has shed between its Disney-era box office peak and its newest big screen entry. You don't need a galaxy brain take to see it, you need a calculator. In December 2015, Star Wars The Force Awakens detonated to the tune of $2 billion worldwide per Box Office Mojo, the kind of cultural event run that made Disney's $4 billion Lucasfilm purchase look like a steal. 10 plus years later, The Mandalorian and Grogu is grinding towards roughly 360 million worldwide and counting. Run the math, that's about an 85% decline. Put bluntly, you can make the argument that Star Wars has lost 85% of its audience. Likewise, Nielsen data has also shown a drop of over 70% in viewership for the Star Wars show on Disney+. Well, there's a reason for that. For starters, Mandalorian Season 3 was terrible. So no one's going to go and watch Mandalorian and Grogu because Season 3 was crap. Everyone's checked out. And as for Star Wars in general, well, let's be honest, we've all been told to fuck off for quite some time now, all the way through Kathleen Kennedy's run. And so fans have done just that. They've fucked off and found other things to watch, me included. We're not interested. At the end of the day, The Mandalorian and Grogu looks like what it probably is, which is basically, remember Attach? Do you remember The Mandalorian? Do you remember Grogu? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Which is basically what you get in the trailer. All the greatest hits. You know, not Jabba the Hutt, not Yoda, not Boba Fett. I mean, that's basically what you're getting. And at the same time, the whole thing feels like just a feature-length episode of The Mandalorian. A show that in its last season was terrible. So why would people go and watch this? Well, the spin-off excuse falls apart fast. The first defence is obvious. Lucasfilm's defenders will say the comparison isn't fair. Force Awakens was a saga film, the return after a decade, and the launch of a numbered trilogy built around Luke, Han and Leia. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't like The Force Awakens. I actually went to watch it twice because it just felt off to me the first time I watched it, and I wasn't sure if it was me or the film. And then I watched it a second time, and then I realised why. Because it was a worse version of A New Hope. Yeah, it looked nicer, but that was about it. A New Hope was a much better film. Anyway, The Mandalorian and Grogu is a spin-off from Disney Plus show. Of course, it made less. Except that excuse already has a name, and the name is Rogue One. Yes, exactly. Rogue One was a spin-off, and it did really well. But why was that? Because it followed The Force Awakens. This is why it did well. It didn't follow The Last Jedi, the film that basically spat in all the Star Wars fans' faces. Rogue One was a spin-off too. No episode number, no Skywalkers headlining, a side story about stealing the Death Star plans, starring characters most general audiences had never heard of. It made over $1 billion in 2016. And I should add, that's the only Disney film I really like, if I'm honest, Rogue One. That's the point. When Star Wars was healthy, a spin-off was still an event because the brand was the draw, not the number on the poster. People showed up because it said Star Wars. That's what an event franchise looks like. So no, The Mandalorian and Grogu didn't underperform because it's a spin-off. Rogue One proved the spin-off can clear $1 billion. It underperformed because it's Star Wars in 2026, and that means something very different than Star Wars in 2016. If the defence is Solo, that doesn't get Lucasfilm off the hook either. Solo didn't prove that Star Wars spin-offs were doomed. It proved the fallout from The Last Jedi had already hit the brand. See, what I just said, spot on. Solo arrived just 6 months later and bombed. The audience that walked out on The Last Jedi didn't come back for the next one. The Mandalorian and Grogu is what that crack looks like 8 years later, after the brand damage became impossible to hide. Yeah, absolutely. The box office has already delivered the verdict. With the spin-off excuse gone, the trajectory speaks for itself. At around 316 million worldwide and bleeding theatres, The Mandalorian Grogu is tracking to finish as the lowest grossing live-action Star Wars movie ever made, below even Solo, the 2018 bomb that became the franchise's punchline. That matters because Solo, coming right after the fan base split in The Last Jedi, helped send Star Wars movies into a years-long theatrical exile. The Mandalorian and Grogu is already the lowest grossing live-action Star Wars film domestically, and it's on pace to become the first to miss 200 million at home. And the humiliation wasn't just in the final total. It was visible by the second weekend when Obsession, a $750,000 horror original with no IP, which it is, no franchise and no stars, knocked Star Wars out the #1 spot. Yeah, that film is doing really well. Huge profits. The brand's return to the big screen got beaten on home turf by a movie made for less than a Star Wars catering bill. Says it all really there, doesn't it? Box office in this franchise's most honest focus group, and the focus group is shrinking. From a $1 billion spin-off in 2016 to the lowest grossing entry in the saga's history in 2026. That's not a fluke weekend or a soft calendar, that's a verdict. Alright, I don't think we need to read the rest because I can tell that just from this. Lucasfilm's reported answer chase younger viewers. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work because you've been doing that anyway. And it hasn't worked, has it? I mean, Andor, I think, is your not biggest, because a lot of people switched off to Andor because of all the damage they've done to the franchise. But Andor was really good. Everybody who's watched it says it's a great show. So I don't think catering to younger audiences is going to help them either, because quite clearly the younger people aren't watching either. The plan gets the problem backwards. Yeah, I don't think I need to read any of this because we've seen all this all before. Company's going to try and spin it a certain way. And really, when it comes down to it, the reason why it's failed is because nobody cares about Star Wars anymore. All us fans have been told to fuck off and touch grass, and if we don't like it, we should go and watch something else, and that we're racist and we're istophobes of some sort. You know, and at the end of the day, we've all had enough of it, haven't we? So we've answered this with our wallets. We've not paid to go and watch it. We've done what they told us to do. We have fucked off. We have found other things to watch. So, yeah, at the end of the day, you've done this to yourself, Disney. I don't feel bad for you. And I'm sad to say this because I was always a Star Wars fan ever since I was a kid. But I'm kind of glad it's dying, because this is what happens when you do this to your fans. At the end of the day, you are where you are because of your fans. And you should respect that. And if you're not going to, you deserve what's coming. But anyway, guys, that's just my views. And if your views are different, let me know in the comments down below. If you agree, let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.